Okay, let's see. Just trying to figure out. I didn't catch whether we are live, so I'm hoping we are. Oh, we are. Look at that. Wasn't really planning on coming on tonight. It just kind of worked out that way. So we are just going to refresh that and see if we can get on and test the mic. Oh, look at that. And we are apparently live. Don't know how long I'll be on, but we'll see what happens. I just wasn't quite ready to pack it in and go to bed. So here we are. Anyway, there we are. So now that I've got that done, if you're already subscribed, clearly you're already getting notification of what's happening. Let's just make sure this is making noise. Let's just make sure this recording is making noise. And let's see. Volume's at 67. And let's see. Okay. Well, I should turn that up a little. Now, I wonder if that's just because. What? Okay. There we go. I should turn that up a little. I wonder if that's just because. There, now I can actually hear. Okay. There we go. Okay. Shut that off. Now we can hear. Okay. Well, like I said, I wasn't entirely planning on coming on tonight, but I'm not really ready to pack it in, so here we are. Don't worry, just paint. I figured I had a little bit of time to kill. Wasn't ready to pack it in. So one of the biggest tricks with getting things organized. Whoop. Well, that's taken a while. Is take the figures and whoop. There we go. I just kicking around here and figured, what the heck? I might as well see what I could do. Now, since I can't see close up, not with my glasses on anyway, this is what I was referring to about actually painting little tiny figures. This particular one I'm working on here is the one I'm using to represent Billion Belenderos. Actually, from the first trilogy of the Yldrbacian Chronicles, as in volumes 1 to 3, the beginning years. Now, Billion you'll hear about periodically throughout the point, throughout the book, because Billion down the road in book 10 is the same individual from another lifetime that becomes J.G. Wollstrand, also known as Jeremiah. So, I mean, I'm looking at this going, this simply will help me deal with a fight. I'm working on a combat scene that has Billion up against 15 other individuals. Now, given the amount of turnaround that I've got, where it comes to the actual choreography of it to make it work, I literally lay the figures out. Now, this particular character, I originally, as you can tell, had done in purple. Only I decided I liked the layout of the building of the character to the point that I've just redone and painted over it in black. Now, understand something about these. If you haven't done any figure painting, and that's figure, not finger, okay, you don't clean these things off again. You just put another coat of paint on them. Either to tidy them up, or in this case, to just completely change the color. Because I'm going from purple to a black. Well, that was close. Thought I messed that one up. Yes, it takes a little bit more work to get it sorted around. Oh, looks like we have company here. JCL, how are you? In all fairness, I wasn't expecting to be here. It's just I figured I was up. And I might just as well see if anybody was floating around and let people keep asking me about whether, about the figures I've been working on. So I just figured normally Sunday I wouldn't bother, but I was up, I was doing some editing, and unfortunately we ran into a little bit of a problem with energy levels on the part of my editor, also known, by the way, as my executive assistant. So I turned around and went, no, I'm not ready to go to bed. So I'll come on here for a little bit and get some of the other work done. So I mean, ultimately, that's how I ended up here tonight. This is the other part of how I work on things. Now, I did something here. Where is it here? Something I've been talking about doing, and I might just as well do it while I'm talking about it. Get that out of the way. Now, pardon my head looking like it's going elsewhere. And I'm just going to open up, where is book 10? Of course, can't read. Book 6, book 9. That's book 12. There's book 11. Book 1, 5, 7. There's book 10. Okay. I got to the point, or I've reached the point here, where I realize that I actually have to start doing something about letting people know what I'm actually working on here. So I figured, what the heck? I had the time available. Okay. So this is just what I do in the other side of what I do. Now, I had to bring that up. Now, this character, in that character there, I am looking for, if I grab not a toothpick, but another tiny paintbrush. And I can take a look at this. And I've got to get green, which is that green there, Prologue. Okay. Now, when I mentioned a while ago that everything is connected. Okay, think of it this way. I'm writing the Yldrbac Chronicles. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm doing these paintings. Plus, of course, as we've discussed multiple times in the past, we've got this. This compendium is literally a reference manual. But many of the characters, or many of the races that are there, are actually discussed and are actually brought to life in the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, not the least of which is the Muldocs. Now, what I'm looking at, let's see. We have, yep, we can do that. No, not that one. So, I mean, ultimately, of course, I keep losing track of where everybody is. For me right now, it's only 10 o'clock at night. So I could be here for a while, depending on what I end up doing, or depending on how tired I get. But get those out of the way. And yes, I still have, even at 10 o'clock at night, I still have my coffee. Oh, I was meaning to do that just to see what kind of a mix-up I can stir. So we copy that and go back over here. Go back to, yeah, I love when that happens. Okay. Coming into here, and we're just going to post on LinkedIn. Just simply pop the link in that I've just got here onto, is LinkedIn in there? No. Okay. So I bring my LinkedIn account up. That is not what I wanted. Okay. Because I would just as soon go straight into the issue. LinkedIn, why is it not there? Well, that is unfortunate. Just looking to see what happened to my LinkedIn and my Twitter link. But apparently that is not. Nope, it's not. So let's pray things work. Okay, we'll try that again. That should do it. Hopefully. That brought it in. Kind of I mean, computers for me get along very, very haphazardly at best anyway. But no pending invitations. There's a shock. And we go to the home. Just trying to let it kick up and get where it belongs. Okay, home. There we go. Now at this little neat thing, there we go. We're just going to post the link into LinkedIn and into LinkedIn and then into Twitter and see what happens. I figure the only way I'm going to get things moving is if I actually do something with them. So here we are. And we come up on Twitter. And there we are. Working a little sluggishly, it would seem. This is what's called getting a little bit sidetracked. There we go. Paste. And tweet. There we are. Now we'll see what happens. Anyway, what I have done here was put the paint there. Now I've got all these guys. And what I'm doing here is just bringing to life the different characters, the different figures that I've got. But since I got a whole pile of them that are variations on the same race, I figured the logical thing to do is get the paint out and get them done. That way, at least I can get on with the fighting, with the writing side of it. The thing is that these figures work really well for choreographing and, much more importantly, in a lot of cases, body count. This is just one of those tools that I work with. But when I said that everything is connected, I literally have combined all three aspects. Okay, my work, my gaming, my writing, my paint, the whole 9 yards, all gets dealt with in the same way. Now, this isn't bad considering I used to, after my stroke, I could not pick up a coffee cup, much less a paintbrush. Where am I here? No, I want to be on there. There we are. Okay. So what I've got here is one of the figures that is, like, as far as D&D goes, I'm working on an orc right now. Now, the orcs that I paint for my figures, the majority of them are green. Okay. And you just have to watch what you're working with. Okay. And of course, the fact of the matter is we're using very small amounts of paint, which is why I do several at the same time. This will just make it easier because the fight I'm in the middle of choreographing is from book 3. Okay. Now, I'm not even right off the top of my head certain what I've used as a working title. Aside from, actually, I think right now the working title is Lindana Awakes, which, by the way, where the Yldrbacian Chronicles are concerned, Lindana is ultimately the god that you're working with. Okay, but there is a massive battle at the end of book 3, and an ages-ending battle, kind of like the great collapse in book 9. Okay, so what I do here now, the birth of the wolf pack takes place after the great collapse. This is why the birth of the wolf pack, although it's the first one I brought out, it's actually the 10th one in the series. Because it's the 10th one in the series, it just worked out. Ultimately, what happened was I wrote the story back in grade 10. I wrote the original storyline back in grade 10. And it was written up to the fall of mankind. Well, that ultimately means at some point mankind had to fall, but because of the way that my gaming was going, I ended up turning around and writing the birth of the wolf pack first, which takes place right after the fall of mankind. 12 years after the fall, by the way. Okay, so I ended up writing that out. Writing Birth of the Wolf Pack, and then it had to go forward from there. Now, the neat part about it, in my eyes, the original story that I wrote, the original storyline, is actually going on to, it actually starts with the beginning of creation and goes into covering a lot of the different types, a lot of the different things going on, such as creation, evolution, how did religion come into it, what is a soulmate, what is a soul, a twin flame, what is a soul family, how does reincarnation work, is there life after death, this sort of thing. Okay, and of course we also include all the various different races. Okay, many of the mythological ones also exist. This is why when people talk about aliens, I split them into 2 very different groups. I split them into off-worlders, which are races that evolved on another planet and then for one reason or another ended up coming here. Then I also include the ancient races, which are the races that actually evolved on Earth. By doing that, it gave me a real solid foundation. Now, the Yldrbacian Chronicles themselves actually can combine evolution, creationism, religion, science, magic, technology, aliens, ancient races, and probably a few other things, all neatly under one bundle. Okay. And the reason for that is because of the fact that to me it was all connected. It just worked out that way. Now you got to remember, I grew up in the Bible Belt. Where are we here? Don't have my glasses on, so therefore I missed some stuff. That works out well. Yeah, Birth of the Wolf Pack is actually the first series, the first book. Okay, well, it's the first one I put in print. It's actually the first book of the 4th trilogy. I did get a hold of my major distributor, and they are in the process of correcting the mess up that they did. Took me a month to get a hold of them, but I did get a hold of them. Okay, so, I mean, all in all, there are 12 books. Now, I guess since I've got you in the room there, okay, JCL. I guess since I've got you in the room, it would make sense to ask your input on whether or not you feel excerpts out of the Yldrbacian Chronicles, or for that matter, any of the other books I've got written, would be advantageous in getting people's awareness of them. Would be nice if I had some light that I could see with. That light doesn't do a lot. Oh, that's not plugged in, so we can't do that anyway. I mean, I've played around with the idea of actually reading bits and pieces out of it. Now, I am by no means a professional reader. Yes, I'm very definitely a professional writer. If you think about it, and my writing skills, I thought I was good. It's a good thing I got a really, really picky editor. The editing for book 11 and now for book 12, now that she's moved completely into the position, is just absolutely remarkable. I will end up doing a second printing with a lot of the corrections being made in Birth of the Wolfpack. Not in the story. I'm talking about punctuation, continuity of speech patterns, this sort of thing. Okay. But just out of curiosity, what is your take on actually either reading? Oh, there we go. Okay, well, that answered that question in a hurry. I do appreciate the input. Like I said, it really boils down to marketing has never been my strong suit, at least not for me. I mean, it is one of these things that I know is absolutely critical, but it's also one of these things that I know that is, it's a weak point of mine. I keep kind of telling myself, you can do better, and I can. But it's going to take some time to bring it to that pace. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you up on your suggestion. And I figure I'm online anyway, but I cannot paint while I do it. And I'll read part of it. Actually, I'll read the starting part out of it. This will give you an idea, I think. Okay. Just want to get this one done because I don't want the paint to dry up at the same time. But no, the whole thing started out like the Birth of the Wolfpack. If you take a look at it, there's a number of different names. Now I've got right now, if I look up at this database up here, and come down to Jeremiah Wollstrand. Throughout the series, there are a number of names that because it starts off with him at the beginning, okay, in book 1. But he is doing, here we are, other names. We have that are already, let's go with just the ones that are already definitively locked into place. Because you've got you've got Jeremiah Wollstrand, who is also known as Billion Belenderos. As a matter of fact, let me do that. I just have book 10 open. How about if we move this? Move that up out of the way. Now, okay, now understand, like I said, I am a lousy, I am an absolutely terrible reader, which is why I stumble over my own words. Okay, but what you have here, it starts off with the prologue. Okay, traveling far and wide in the years since retiring from the Canadian military had taught him much about the changing world before him. All around the countryside, he had seen numerous individuals do horrendous things. Yeah, of course that's going to happen. Like I said, I'm a terrible reader, and of course, the computer doesn't cooperate. Okay. Do horrendous things to each other in the name of love, honor, and or friendship. As society degraded, he had witnessed a staggering growth in the paramilitary strength and numbers of gangs, small families, communes, and clans. Although these groups were disorganized, the nefarious bands posed a growing threat to the current and newly forming communities. He had tried in earnest to calmly discuss and mediate the growing disagreements, virtually all to no avail. Above all, the restabilization of the interplanetary population was of the utmost importance at this time. Okay. Now, in recent months, now understand, interplanetary, well, let's face it, that means this goes way beyond just the human race. In recent months, a new threat had emerged in the Onondaga Valley, one that posed a greater threat than ever before. During his travels, he had befriended many of the varying heritages and races. Interestingly enough, he had also learned many new languages, cultures, and healing techniques, while also being reminded of some ancient ones. Despite the setbacks he had suffered over the years, or perhaps because of them, he was not readily prepared to face them alone again. Thus it was that he ended up in the situation he was now facing. There it was, not too far off in the distance, Casey's Bar and Grill. It had been years since he had been back in this neck of the woods, and things did not really look as though they had changed very much at all. Or had they? That is the prologue to The Birth of the Wolfpack. Now, I do have the thing that I cannot show you here right now. Actually, that's not entirely correct. I can. And put that down there. What I have to do that, though, is grab this. In The Birth of the Wolfpack, if I open this up, this is not going to show very well. But if you buy The Birth of the Wolfpack from me directly, all of this is colored. Now, you cannot see it much, but that's the Onondaga Lake. Okay. And as you can see, that's colored in. Okay. Then we also have this, which is the more localized variant, the more localized picture, okay, of the area. And where is, looking for one little picture here, right near the beginning, at least I think it's right near the beginning. There. I even went so far. Hey, Bigfoot, how we doing? That is the interior of Casey's Bar and Grill. Okay. So, this is just some of what. Now, Casey's is the place that is the primary bar. Now, if you know anything about gaming, doesn't matter what genre you're working on, more often than not, you'll find it works out really well that, the characters will start off in a bar or have access to a bar pretty quick. So it seemed like the way to go. So I put Casey's as the center point. Okay. And the nice part about it, in my eyes anyway, was I started it off in a bar with the different characters, just starting to meet each other. But literally, I started with Jeremiah walking into the bar and then let the story write itself. Okay. Now, what this is for here, I let the story write itself. There's, I think, 30 chapters in Birth of the Wolfpack. It wasn't until I got to chapter 27 that I went, wait a minute, I've got to find a way to tie this off. I had no idea where it went to. Okay. So, the curiosity question is, this is just what I do when I'm not actually doing other things. What do we got here? Caroline, how are you? Just bringing this up so I can actually see what I'm looking at. Because I can't read it that far without putting my hand right up against the screen, and that just doesn't work well. So we come back up to here, blow that up. There we go. Now I can actually read what's being written. As soon as it, there we go. Caroline, yeah, there we go. I started off just in the bar. I put Jeremiah in there. Now, in the first chapter, there is a fight. Okay, it doesn't go into any detail, but it does set the stage for it. And there's a fight in the first chapter. The second chapter is when it gets really carried away with the detail. And there ends up being a fight. It's 10-1 odds against Jeremiah. And, well, let's see. 7 end up dead, 2 badly hurt, and the last one gets away with in one piece. But I didn't pay much. Like, I paid a lot of attention to it. It just wrote itself. Okay. And the characters come in. Now, in my case, I usually look at it. I'm not much of a reader. Okay, I force myself to read pretty far. Now, I am curious amongst you people what you consider the length of time it usually takes you to get into a story, to decide whether or not this is a story that you're going to read. Now, I did get, I've had people tell me they take 7-8 chapters. I've had people tell me you either catch the person's attention right at the get-go, or you're going to lose their attention. Now, I'm a firm believer that when you're writing things, when you're writing, you've got to, I like bringing the person right smack into the actual story itself, so you feel like you're being there. So you feel like you're actually part of that particular event. And the way I figure it, the more senses I can bring in, and the more there is going on to hold people's attention. And yeah, what I'm doing here, just if you're not aware, these are the figures I've been talking about painting. But I figure if you're going to write, make sure that first and foremost, it has to be internally consistent. Secondly, it's got to be plausible, as it were, which is what takes me the time trying to figure out trying to choreograph fight scenes. Now, understanding that I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons, Aftermath, Star Frontiers, Space Opera, GURPS, let's see, I ended up playing a couple of other minor games as well. And of course, I played Traveler. These are just some of where I get my reference points from. Now, I'm working on one section here, and this is actually, now, I was debating how to go about it. I was working on a section here, because sometimes the characters that come out are, shall we say, a little different. Now, you got to remember, this is a post-apocalyptic story. Now, I just read the prologue to book 10, to the birth of the wolf pack. This part I'm going to read here is something I'm currently writing. Okay. Where is it here? There is one character, you'll eventually find him. Okay, he doesn't show up. I honestly don't know if he actually showed up in book 11 or not. Okay, but I'm gonna point out a little bit of one of the characters, that the character in here that you meet. Actually, I think I'll go to that other one first. I still got to go back to book 10. This is definitely a different way of doing things. In book 10, and I'm going to go back there because of one little detail. Right down the back end of book 10, I'm certainly not going to read the whole story, but this is kind of an important factor. I just have to get to it. There we are, 392. That's the page anyway. Okay. Just looking for where it took place. Just gonna scroll up a little. It'll be easier if I hit find. So if I go find, there's a neat little chap by the name of Valentine. Now understand, Jared, the Wolfpack, the whole birth of the Wolfpack takes place post-apocalyptic. Now I've told people there's a lot of really good science fiction writers out there, really good science fantasy writers out there. I am by no means on the top of the market in my eyes. Other people can figure that out if they'd like. Okay, but like I've told people, I wrote the, what did we do? Okay, I did not actually play Empire of the Petal Throne. Chivalry and sorcery, they were kind of interesting. Okay, I did get involved. I did try them. And I played a lot of the other little odds and ends. My brother actually introduced me to it back apparently at Christmas time in 1972, in 1975 at Christmas. My eldest brother introduced us to gaming then. I got into full-time gaming in June. In June of 76, after school got out. But when I wrote this story, okay, like I've told people, lots of really good authors out there. As far as I am aware, okay, I am the only, if I'm not the only still active gamer that's writing, okay, I'm one of the very few. But here's a section. It comes in at the end of book 10 it comes in at the end of the birth of the Wolfpack. Okay, where are we here? We ignore that part. Okay, just looking for where to actually start it. Now, a lot of the characters that I talk about, okay, again, the actual characters are either built, many of them are built by other players, or the characters that I'm talking about are people based on people I've personally met. Okay. And, I've changed their names, not exactly to protect the innocent, but just looking for where Jeremiah comes into. Don't need that. Oh, there we go. Okay. Here we go. This scene takes place right at the end of the birth of the Wolfpack. Okay, everything's going on. We're back in cases again. There's been a lot that's gone on, because rest assured, this takes place on page, where are we? 385. So it's way down the road. But Jeremiah walks into Casey's after one heck of a conflict. And what I've done is scene change to get here. Jeremiah's duster still had relatively fresh blood soaked into it, and subsequently was giving off a decidedly unpleasant odor, the smell of death. Working his way through the crowd, he recognized a familiar pattern of chatter from the past, emanating from a booth to the left of the main door, occupied by people of varying ages. Approaching the group, he observed the ream of paper and assorted nuts, bolts, and other pieces of debris positioned around the center of the table. There was also a small metal barricade set up in front of one of the party, at the narrow end of the display. Beside the table blind was a handcrafted spalted horse chestnut box with white maple insert that caught his eye. Now, just to take a minor sidetrack on that, this is literally the box that we're talking about. Okay, is this little box here. And if you open it up, you can see the various you can see the dice just in the edge of it. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken some of the items here. The top of the box also bore a bronze embossed dragon with spread wings. Now, in this case, that one is green. Okay, it kind of worked out that way. But, nice workmanship, Jeremiah acknowledged admiringly. If you don't mind my asking, where was it made? Now, by a woodsman living in the commune in the old commonage area. Now, understand, okay, way behind the Institute, he and his family have been up there for years. In fact, he left his mark on the bottom of it, and goes by the moniker David Forager. Valentine explained from beyond the barrier. Sitting inside the box and on the table beside it were a number of brass-colored metal polyhedron dice. Taking the familiar layout in and accepting it for what it was, Jeremiah asked, incidentally, what game are you playing? Now you got to remember, this is taking place inside a post-apocalyptic environment. I'm Valentine, the Game Master, and we're playing a melded version of Dungeons & Dragons with supplementary information taken from Space Opera, Aftermath, Shadowrun, Traveler, Universe, and whatever else we decide to add. So what's the purpose of the game, Valentine? Jeremiah pressed with a smile. Well, I set the game up pre-Great Collapse, with everything heading towards that unfortunate end, began Valentine. And then we, Terrence, May, Lester, Victor, Clark, and Eleanor, use our respective characters to attempt to make the world a better place without letting it collapse, said Terrence as he pointed around the table to each of the other gamers, in turn. Curiosity, but how old are you guys anyway? Continued Jeremiah. I'm 25, Valentine began. 17, added Terrence. 19, responded Eleanor. 32, interjected Clark. 47, admitted Victor. I'm 15, stated Lester proudly. 82, May finished. It really is quite enjoyable. And no one gets hurt, Valentine smiled. This is what I meant by I took gaming and added the people to it. And took the gamers into the event. Okay, there's a little bit more that goes on. Okay, and then it does come to an end. I'm not going to read the end of it. But in book 11, everything picks up at the end of the Birth of the Wolf Pack. I take the last part of the last chapter and use it as the prologue for the next chapter. In this way, I can keep things organized. At least that would be the theory. Yes, I'm still working on painting while I'm doing this. Oh, it's already painted. That's already done. So, I mean, basically, when I take a look at it, I've still got, I also include, I've just started a game myself. Okay, I just started running a campaign myself. Right, that started off with the characters actually in a petri dish. Circa the problem I ran into, the way I look at it, I took this game that I'm working on now, the campaign I'm now running, and I've combined the aspects of D&D with the whole concept of the MyLab, the military laboratories, as well as taking into consideration abductions and that sort of thing that many people talk about in today's world. So, I mean, all in all, there's a lot of different things going on all at the same time. But this is why I say these are all connected. Okay. Now, with the Birth of the Wolf Pack, okay, you'll run into different races. The Elfid, the Dwarven race, the Maldocs, okay, the Kamalians. And I'll get to that in a little bit here. Okay, right now, like I said, this is while I'm doing this, because I've got to get some of these figures painted so I can figure out where they are, as it were. I am not, by any functional stretch, a really talented artist. I figure if I can get anything done, I'm doing well. But as you can see, I end up picking up a bunch of different characters because I'm only using little itty-bitty bits and pieces of them. Okay, what do we got up here? I'll move that back down where I can see it. Blow that back down there. Then we blow that back up. Now, ideally, what I'd like to see happen... Okay, ideally, what I would like to see happen is get my stories out to the point that I am actually able to make a solid living out. Because I don't know about you, but this idea of working and not making any headway just isn't all that appealing for me. That's just the reality of it. So I'm doing what I can to change that little aspect. Oh yeah. Here we have Groot. That's always fun. Also known as the Little Treant. Now, actually that's not bad. We can do that. This particular character, we can certainly take and make green without any problem at all. Now this one, it's not technically Groot. We refer to him as that because he looks kind of like that, kind of like Groot does. But that wasn't what he was bought as. So what I'm looking at here is just taking him from a basic, everyday plastic color. And we'll just add some different color to him. Probably won't all be all one color. But to start with, that's what you do, is you get a base on it so that everything gets covered done properly. And we'll see what we come up with. But no, the different characters you're looking at, the different main characters, you're looking at Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah, you'll come to understand, he is the pacifist of the party, by the way. He's the one that does his best to talk his way out of things to find common ground for people. Now, don't kid yourself. That doesn't mean he's a pushover. He goes out of his way to try and get everybody to get along, to try and find common ground for people to work together. Okay. Now, in his case, he's the one in book 2, in chapter 2, that ends up in a massive conflict with the 10-to-1 odds. Okay, because what happens is basically he tries to talk everybody out of the fighting side of it, but he's more than capable of finishing the job off if he has to. So you've got Jeremiah. You'll get to know him. Well, let's face it, he is the primary protagonist. See, now when it comes to these, now again, I look at this. This is just one of those little aspects that I deal with. Okay. I take a look at the different things going on. Go, okay, if we work together, if people actually start paying attention, we can bring the world back into a decent balance. I was talking to somebody this morning, okay, and, I was talking to somebody today about it, and I says, you know what the easiest way is to just kill the inflation problem? People keep saying we've got to fight inflation. There's a real simple way to do it, and you can almost bet your bottom dollar they won't do it. Now, I used to, up until the beginning of May of this year, I was charging $180 an hour for consulting. Now, understand, I've been doing consulting for 36 years now, where I've been professionally being paid for what I do. Okay. And I'd fallen into the same stupid trap that so many people fell into. And I was charging $180 an hour. $90 every half hour. Now, everybody's talking about inflation and how we've got to find a way to stop it. So what did I do? I did the unthinkable. At the beginning of May, I dropped my prices from $180 an hour to $90 an hour. You drop your prices, inflation stops going up. Now, I'm only a very, very small fish. Okay, so my dropping the price didn't have much of an impact. It certainly made me feel a lot better. And I could then legitimately sit here and go, well, if you drop your prices, inflation won't be as high. Because inflation means you keep bringing the prices up. So what's the solution for this problem with inflation? Do we turn to the stock market, where everybody's trying to make money on the stock market in the first place, and try and do something to try and change that? Do we alter interest rates to encourage people to spend more money? Or how about a novel thought, and this is the one I came up with. How about if we just freeze prices solid? You freeze prices, you freeze your rent rates, okay, and if you freeze the whole 9 yards, well, all of a sudden inflation just collapsed. You're no longer dealing with inflation at that point, because, well, let's face it, if the prices don't go up, you've got no inflation. Now, to me, it's simple mathematics. Do I understand that there's more to the whole thing of society? Absolutely. But inflation boils down to greed. As much as it would be wonderful to blame the government for it, sorry, government is responding to different people complaining they're not making enough money and they're having to work for it. Ultimately, that's what seems to be the problem. So, if you look at it, if you're running a business and you take a look at your business, you want to see a real shift? Now, make sure you do not hang yourself. I can live quite happily on $90 an hour. Okay. Make sure you don't hang yourself. You've got to know what your bottom line is. Okay. But if you happen to own a business that you're working, or you own a apartment block that you're renting out, okay, you want to really shock people and make a good name for yourself all at the same time, drop your price. It will help combat inflation. Now, yes, it will cut into your bottom line. Okay, and the fact that I did that does not make it the only way of doing things. It does make it the way I decided to do it. And when I talk about unifying everything, I really am referring to this issue of going, of saying, okay, this is a question of working together, okay, and talking to people, talking and finding out what people are looking for. Like I said, technology and I are not great. We don't get along all that well at all. Okay, but what I've done with my writing, now that's with the Yldrbac Chronicles, they are a major ongoing thing. Now I was going to show you, I'm going to read something here once I get this moved out of the way. This is a section, now that was book 10, so let's just minimize that for a minute. Okay. I'm going to go right back to the beginning of book 10 here. And, do that so we can actually get to the beginning of it. You go all the way, drag it all the way up front, and should be chapter 3, I think. I'll know that as soon as I scroll down to it. Chapter 1 is the Prelude. Chapter 2 is... Oh, okay. This is book 12. Okay. Book 12, book 12, I've got a lot going on. Where are we? Let's go down to the purple section. I just added this piece. This is after things have gotten real messy. Okay. Now, there is a lot of combat that goes on in this story. Okay, well, bear in mind it's post-apocalyptic. Okay, there we are. 2 more paragraphs, or 2 more, there we are. Now, we're outside right now. This is actually in the Return to Paradise. Okay, so this is taking place after a major conflict at Casey's, and they're trying to clean things up a little. So Jeremiah is wandering around, and actually in this case, you'll find Ozzy is wandering around now. Oswald Theodore Chesterfield III, okay, is a grandfather type person. Okay, he is a gentleman. He walks around. He custom modified a 460 Magnum sniper's rifle into a carbine length barrel. Okay, now this is a gentleman that has been around for a while. Quite frankly, when you meet him in the first place, he's 66 years old. Okay, so we are talking a grandfather. Now he comes out to this area, and he asks this lady, Kat, who, back in Birth of the Wolf Pack, you actually meet Kat. She's pretty badly banged up. And Ozzy and the rest of the Wolf Pack pull her out of the fire, as it were. So he runs into her. She's working at Casey's at this point, taking care of orphans. So Ozzy wanders out, and he goes, he looks at her and goes, Kat, how are you and yours handling the situation out here? We're coping as well as can be expected, Ozzy, though sometimes things still get out of hand. And sitting just in front, laying yet off to the side of the tent, was a small table surrounded by at least a dozen orphans. Watching over them, especially under the current circumstances, was Daryl. Even now, new orphans were being brought over to join them. Come here, son, Daryl soothingly encouraged, whilst extending his arms for a welcoming hug, crouching down to the young boy's height. Where's my mummy? I want my mummy, the boy sobbed, holding on tightly to Daryl's waist. I'm sorry, son, your parents are gone, but we'll take care of you now. You are part of our family. After a short time, the other orphans gathered around in welcoming embrace, despite the ongoing chaos around them, in an added effort to help him feel as though he had belonged there. The children set to introducing themselves. Okay, and then they go through a whole list of names. Now, the reality of it is, while that is going on, okay, oh yes, gee, amazingly forgot to do that. While that's going on, around the corner, out of sight of the orphans, you hear this scream, okay, this female scream, followed by a crash and repeated sound of flesh upon flesh from just beyond the walls of the restock tent. And then what it's saying is, how many times do I have to tell you to leave this new stock alone? I'll be right back, Kat, stated Ozzy as he stepped out of the tent once again, turning to the left and walking behind the tent. Ozzy observed a rather intriguing sight. There was Fran, straddling a large, balding male, pinning his arms beneath her legs, as she hammered her fists into his face, right, then left, then right again, with each stated word. Good morning, Fran. I don't think the chap is listening to you anymore, he said with a casual smile. Pausing momentarily, Fran looked up to see who was addressing her. Now you got to realize, Fran herself was very badly beaten, okay, and abused at the hands of her last captors. She and Kat were brought out together. Okay, and Fran has developed a little bit of an attitude. But again, this is why I say I write all of this at once. Okay. But that's taking place. You won't see that until book 12. And there's a lot that builds up to Fran's attitude. Okay. But Ozzy himself, like I said, Ozzy is he's a grandfather. Okay. And he does try and take care of people. Some of the other characters you'll run into, okay, there's 7 in all. Okay, in the wolf pack itself. Okay. You look here. We have Jeremiah Wollstrand. We have Wilhelm. Sniper, that's Wilhelm Schunter. He is a sniper extraordinaire. And you have Tanya Jan Scott. She's a hillbilly with an attitude. Okay. And then we've got these two. We'll put that out of the way. Then you have Blade, who grew up on the streets, and Dirk Waterstone, who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Now, these two are close friends since childhood. There's 2 more in the group that you haven't seen yet. Okay. And those other 2 are you're missing here. Mickey Finn, and who's the other one that's missing? I hate when I pull blanks. Pulling an absolute blank on number 4. And I hate when I do that. Pulling an absolute blank. So I've got Jeremiah, Tanya, Blade, Ozzy, Mickey, Wilhelm, and Dirk. That can't be right. Jeremiah, Tanya, Ozzy, Blade, Wilhelm, Mickey, and Dirk. Yes, that is all of them. Okay. So why did I make... Oh, because, of course, the 2 on the back of the other page happen to be Ozzy and Mickey. This is where I'm making the problem. Or making the oversight here. Now, I do believe... Oh, need another pen or another paintbrush. That's what it's called. This thing here. See, where it comes to paintbrushes, I use very, very inexpensive ones. Okay, as in, I'll get 10 paintbrushes for $2.50 because, quite frankly, they don't clean well after you put acrylic paint on them. But I take silver, so I can now go through, take you guys out of the way, put you over there, and what I do with the other one. There we go. Now I can take a look at these. And I can turn around, and who invited you? Now I can take the silver, and I can paint all the weapons at the same time. Because like I said, when I'm painting these, they use so little paint on each item that you end up wasting a lot if you don't do multiple at the same time. You know, people have asked what I do in my spare time. If I'm not writing, this is the other thing I end up doing. Don't know if this is exciting for anybody. I wouldn't necessarily say it was even exciting from my standpoint, but it is something I enjoy, and it does help me wind down so that tonight I'll actually be able to get a functional amount of sleep. Now, the nice part about it is as I get things organized, I'll be able to actually make all this fit properly. And we just do it, like I said, one figure, we do multiple figures at the same time. Because that way, I'm not wasting a whole pile of paint. And I went back up there. I keep moving that, and I can't see what I'm looking at. Of course, trying to keep an eye on what is going on in the chat room. I take a look at these. I take a look at the figures I'm painting. I've got I'm thinking close to 500 different figures that I work with, that I paint. Okay. So you paint a whole pile at once, and that saves you a whole lot of hassles of wasting a lot of paint. And every once in a while, like there are some twists and turns that take place whenever I'm working on anything, because I just started writing another book, which means currently I'm actually writing 15 at the same time. Not necessarily one of my brightest moves, but it is the one that I work with. So I'm ending up, like somebody was asking me about new figures. Well, these aren't exactly new figures, but they are ones that I'm in the process of painting. But I've got something close to 500 figures that I'm working on. Which can be challenging if in case you hadn't noticed. When I first started gaming, I was told, oh, you're playing in the Devil's Playground. And I'm thinking like, no, that was a different issue. But where it comes to actual gaming, it's a great release for imagination. You too, eh? I wasn't actually expecting a whole lot, in the chat room. For me, this was just a question. I've been asked a number of times about it. So I figured I might just as well. I wasn't ready to pack it in. I should have probably packed it in, but I've been sleeping stupid hours myself lately. So I turned around and went, well, I'm just going to come online and see what pops up. See if I get any comments after the fact. I sort of came to the conclusion that, things were going to have to be done a little differently. But, I'm not about to read, like when it comes to the excerpts, I'm certainly not about to turn around. Well, that worked out well. I'm certainly not about to turn around and read the entire story. Otherwise, there'd be no point in people buying it. Well, actually, in my eyes, there still would be. But a lot of the characters that you run into, the different races, when you look at the races of the worlds, that particular book is a reference manual. And in that, you'll find all kinds of information about society and what have you of the different races. But what I did was took that information and went, okay, if we take that information and we include these kids, use the same races in the story, then all of a sudden what we've got is we've got a link over. And you can get the reference manual and then see some of their social interactions. Okay, and thereby get a better understanding of them. Kind of in an odd sort of way, ends up placing the races of the worlds as almost a supplementary program or a supplementary book to the Birth of the Wolf Pack. And again, it really does all overlap. But when you're looking, I gotta slow down on that. When you're looking at making something a solid picture, for me, it's a question of really getting an idea solidly in my head as to what I desire my life to look like. Okay, for me, it's a real simple thing. Have a world put the world together in such a way that people can actually see in a different world, in a different light, a way a world could be. It's what are we here? JCL, where it comes to odd hours, quite often I'm usually in bed, usually about a half an hour ago, but then quite often I end up waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, right? And what I decided was, well, I could go to bed when I did earlier. I could have gone to bed a half an hour ago and gone, I'm going to get some sleep. But what usually happens is I end up sleeping way too long. So this was just literally an issue of I'm awake and I just don't want to go to bed just yet. So here I am. But in case you hadn't noticed, I'm starting to get a little on the tired side. Of course, I've been at this for an hour now, which is not bad. I should get that other thing done, though. Put that aside, because those are all wet, and I keep hitting wet paint, and that doesn't work for me. Making sure I don't actually have wet paint on my hands before grabbing the book. There we go. No. In all fairness, Caroline, if you look at the way the stories are written, okay, when you take a look at all 12 books together, 1, 2, and 3, because it'll go 1, 2, 3 across the top. You get 4 to 6, 7 to 9, and then when we take a look at these two, okay, this is 10, 11, and this is 10, 11, 12 isn't out yet. These are actually the bottom part of the picture. Okay. Keep doing that and forgetting which way they fit. Okay, this is book 10, okay, and book 11. Now, you'll see how the pictures run together. Now, I don't have them perfectly lined up. Book 12 is not actually in print yet, but it will come in over here. Okay, because book 10, 11, and 12 are the fourth trilogy in a saga that runs 4 trilogies. Okay. So that's how that combination works. Book 1, 2, and 3. Well, book 1 I've already got the artwork done for. Okay, and it's where it all began. It's where the beginning of reality starts. Book 10, The Birth of the Wolf Pack, picks up right after mankind's collapse. Book 11 is a direct follow-through, and then book 12 brings the whole thing to a close. Okay. However, in book 12, there is in the Return to Paradise, one of the characters, and let's see if I've got book 12 here. Maybe I can do something with this. Book 10. Whoop. I love my computer on occasion. It works so not well. I go right to the end of it. At the back end of book 12. Okay. Just see who it was that asked. Okay. The whole bunch of them are sitting around. Everything's gone down to has gotten down to a dull roar, if you will. And Tanya. Okay. Tanya comes along and says, and literally looks at Jeremiah and goes, Jeremiah, how old are you? Right? And Jeremiah goes, honestly, guys, no one's ever asked me that until now. But since you asked, Jeremiah began, rising to his feet. Consider the concept of the Big Bang Theory, as proposed by Georges Lemaitre in 1927, as being the biggest in the beginning of the universe as you accept it to be. Okay, this is the end of book 12. This is where this gets explained. But what he tells them right at the end of it, and I won't go into any more of it, Casey has the original scrolls that were written, titled Yldrbac. These are bound in the first 8 books of our history. I encourage you to peruse them whilst you can. As I have said before, I have been known by many peoples, by many names on many worlds. And as he began his tale, Jeremiah started to pace amongst the crowd. Now, I'm going to leave you with that because there is a tie-off to that points everything in the right direction. Okay. The neat part with, like, in all fairness, in JCL, I spent 24 years working in restaurants. Okay, I just got out of it because I got fed up picking myself up off the floor. My leg kept buckling. Now, if you take a look over my shoulder here, all of those binders there, that's hard copy writing of the entire saga. At this point, I have, let's see, I'm just going up to the top of my data file. At this point, the saga itself is approximately 27% written. Okay. Some of the books are written, like, for instance, the end of an Appa, or the Return to Paradise, is over half written. I'm still hoping and getting it out by the end of this year, which is why I ended up coming in here tonight and was working on it. The Where It All Began, which is literally, it'll be coming out next year sometime. Okay. Probably later in the year, but it's already half written. Well, 164 out of 400 pages, so close to, it's 38% written. Roughly. No, that's 30, no. How many pages, or what is it here? Yeah, it is 38% written, roughly. Okay. That is wrong. 38 out of 400. Divide that by 4. We are looking at about 9% written. About 38,000 words. Oh, yeah, okay. 30. I should probably think before I speak. The Where It All Began has 164 pages written, which boils down to approximately, just a little less than half written. Okay. And it's just coming along together. But when I was working hospitality, I ran into some incredible people. And this is why when you look at the books I've written, or at the storyline, the Yldrbacian storyline, okay, I've got different chapters, different books have different restaurants or different bars, pubs, that sort of thing. Okay, but and most of these events are based on something I've personally gone through, personally witnessed, or have taken from gaming sessions with actual gamers playing any one of a number of games. Okay. There is an old saying that goes, write what you know or do what you know. Okay. Now, I spent 24 years in restaurants. I spent 46 years now guiding people, 36 generating an income in the consulting field on virtually every topic. Okay. And what I came to understand is that once you've got an idea of of who you are, of what you see as the life you desire, absolutely pick it out, go, that's what I'm going at. Take everybody that tells you it can't be done, you can't make money doing that. Try and convince people like John Grisham, Stephen King, Anne McCaffrey. Try telling these people they can't make money writing. Okay. Or George Lucas. I mean, these are simple examples of people that virtually everybody knows. Okay. Tell people that have gone that are now singing and making a living. You take a look at Carrie Underwood. Take a look at, heck, you look at the Rolling Stones. Look at Kiss. These were all people that many of their peers, many of their own family, told them as they were growing up and getting into the industry, oh, don't do that. You can't make money at it. I'm telling you, you can make money at just about everything. Okay. And, the reality of it is, as long as you believe it's possible and you're writing for the right reason, and in my opinion, the right reason is to get a story out. Now, the fact of the matter is, do I desire to actually have, make a living at this and turn this into my own personal income? The answer is absolutely yes. But the reality behind it is money has never been a strong motivator for me. I got started writing the Yldrbac Chronicles back when I was in grade 10. Okay. At this point, I'm sitting here going, well, I've got the story started now. I'm going to finish it. Now, the fact that I'm 59 does not mean I'm short on life. Quite frankly, I'm in better shape now than I was 15 years ago. Okay, better shape, better health, much more focused. I will tell you, the people that point blank say, hey, you got to know what you're doing, what you want to do with your life in order to be successful. Well, you got to have a plan picked out by the time you're 20. Take that idea, in my opinion, and throw it right out the window. The average person, from my experience, figures out what they desire to do for a living when they get into their late 40s, early 50s, not when they're 20 years old. I've talked to a staggering number of people that have said, I really should not have picked the career that I picked, in order to get on, in order to have a path, right? Because here I am, 10 years into it, and I hate the profession. The reality is that when you're looking at making your world better, you're the only one that can actually make it better. Okay. You're the one that absolutely has to stand your ground and say, this is what I'm doing because I desire to do it. Make the money a side effect. It is the best thing I can possibly tell you as far as business goes. The money's got to be a side effect. Now, understand, when I wrote these two books, okay, this one here is actually the backbone of what I do. Okay. I've got Believe in Your Business and Follow Your Dreams as well. I just started 2 days ago writing Believe in Your Success and Follow Your Dreams. There will be in time 12 different books of this caliber, of this type. And you can see they're really big books. Absolutely humongous. Okay. And eventually I will get them onto Amazon and what have you. For the moment, I'm still trying to make ends meet. So right now, the only way I can do it, okay, is to do them the way I am. Which is why if you go to my website, rkeithandrews.com, you'll find the different books and how much they cost, including shipping. Now, of course, the including shipping is covering quite literally Canada and the continental US. Okay, and I'm just popping up here to see what I've got. What do we got here? If I go there, and I go, there we go. There we go. Yeah, the nice part about it, from my standpoint, I finally got a web page up. Okay. And it really boils down to figuring out how to market. Now, that is not my strong suit. But what I did figure out, yep, right there. I used to actually have 2 office chairs in here, but I found it too much of a pain in the neck. And besides that, they didn't roll properly. But in this little folder here, I mentioned to people I was going to get my policies resorted around. Okay, I'm still working on some of that. But what I've got in here is my policies, my referral notes for word of mouth advertising. Okay, and of course the profit sharing that I'm looking at, because in my opinion, it's real simple. Okay, if you're going to run a business, if you're going to make things work, okay, first and foremost, any business owner has to realize you're only successful if two things happen. One, customers know where to find you, or clients know where to find you. And two, you have to treat the client like they mean something other than a dollar bill. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. Which brings us back to that issue of energy out, energy in. Okay, meaning you desire for people to treat you properly. It's absolutely imperative you do the same to them. Absolutely. You're welcome aboard there, poetically. You are absolutely correct. If you look at people, now you cannot control how they are going to perceive you. You can only control how you present yourself. And you can control how you respond to the way that they treat you. Okay, but that's all you've got control over. Now, from my standpoint, I came to the conclusion a long time ago that I make every single person that I meet happy. Some of them by showing up, most of them by leaving. Okay. Now, my business, the slogan that I developed long ago, bearing in mind that I've been working in the metaphysical field for, at this point, 43 years. 36 years. Keep having fun with that. Okay. I've been working in this field for that long, looking at where people's lives were going. Well, realistically, I started looking where people's lives were going when I was 10, making this 49 years, which is why with Inner Voice Enterprises, I run with the slogan, the future is our business. The present is your life. I can tell you on the path you're going, what you're likely to run into, on the path society is going, what you're likely to run into. I can give you all kinds of things that I've seen happen, bearing in mind I remember many of my past lives. 18 or 20 of them that have been cataloged so far or quantified, okay, on this planet alone. I can tell you what the outcomes likely are. I cannot make people do anything about it. But I will happily tell you that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, it's funny, I did an online interview the other day with somebody, and they told me that moving my hands while I'm talking was distracting and unprofessional. I'm like, let's be real. This is me. If you ever run into me in person, and if you ever get down to Kelowna, BC, absolutely drop me a line. I am willing to go and meet people for coffee. But I will tell you, I'm just the same as I am anywhere else. So the only laws that I personally live by are be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay. Now, if you compare your guidelines to those three, what I do believe you'll find is that all of yours will fit into the only three I work with. And the advantage I feel I've got is real simple. I only have to remember three. Okay, these guys are all painted. I'm not doing anything with them at this point. So while I'm talking to you, I'm just going to put them back over here because they're being set up for a major battle. It's a battle taking place in book 3. Okay, which is, Tenta is, the working title is Lindana Awakes. Now, Lindana is the for this genre, or for this book, for this saga. Yldrbac is the combined god, okay, of this particular saga. And in that one, okay, in that particular book, okay, they come back together and they merge to become one entity. And all of that is actually explained in the earlier books. As far as what a soulmate is, how they come about, what a soul family is, what a twin flame is, how past lives work, how reincarnation works. You understand, this is something I've been studying for literally my entire life. Never mind the lifetimes before. Okay. As I get pictures sorted around, okay, and it's probably not a bad idea. I should probably do that. Matter of fact, this is something else I do my best to sort out. I do believe I should do that while I'm sitting here talking to you. I keep postponing it because I wanted to get all of them. But the reality is, if I take a look at one draft that I've already written here, see if we get rid of that because I don't need it. Go to the draft, and we should get started on this one. Okay, let's just take a peek at that. And did I actually? I did so. There we go. Oh, since you have an epic. Just have to, while I'm sitting here, I'm going to get this email sent off to my artist down in Texas, the one that's working on the Races of the Worlds. Reptilian on the left hand. There we go. Because I figure I don't have all of them sorted out. Because I usually give him 5 at a time, and I just keep getting sidetracked. So I'm just going to send him the first one. Okay. And we will send that off. That at least gets it started. This is one of the drawbacks that I've got going on here, is trying to get everything working in the right order. Draft folder is now empty. Okay, so we've got that moving. I'm still waiting for certain emails back from people. But needless to say, well, in case you hadn't noticed, I've been on here for an hour and a half at this point, and apparently we are starting to wind down, which is why, and I strongly encourage you people, I strongly encourage all of you, when your office is running, okay, before you pack it in for the night, put things away so you can start your day off early properly. So when you get back into the office, you've got things set up and you can carry on. If you do not do this, you're likely to find yourself a little behind the 8 ball trying to organize. Which is what I'm doing here, is just putting the painting back. Because, well, I decided I was going to do it over here. Simply because of the fact that, well, frankly, being over there and trying to do the painting and actually showing you anything wasn't going to happen. So now I've got my office. I can get up in the morning. Okay. I can get back in here and get back to work, but everything is where it belongs. But before I do that, where did my pen go? There it is. Oh, complete sidetrack on the whole thing. Really happy with the way things have been going as far as finances go. Just to give you an idea. Okay. And again, this boils down to following the tools that I personally am using. Okay. I just got a letter from my credit card company. Look, just taking a look at what was just said there. Thank you very much, poetically. I just got a letter from my credit card company. I was paying a staggering 29.9% interest on my credit card. They just dropped it to 19.9. Now I'll tell you, that makes a staggering amount of difference in my bills. In that particular bill anyway. But it's just simply another example of working with the tools I personally work with. It does have real-time effect. Now, I'm just making a note for myself to make sure that I do post the information on the Yldrbac Chronicles on Facebook and what have you to let people know where I'm going. Okay, if you want to hear more excerpts from the books, okay. I mean, and it's not just the Yldrbac Chronicles. I've got 7 books in print right now. Okay, it's just a method that dawned on me, and that's why I've asked people if it's a good idea. You know, somebody should have done that when I heard of a guy that was wanted to siphon gas. Right off the bat, this is a bad idea. Okay, what was an absolutely stupid idea was he decided after he had the gas cap open, he decided to use a lighter to determine if there was gas in the gas tank. Now, this was undoubtedly not well thought out. He did find out that the gas tank did have gas in it. But I'm thinking he didn't manage to siphon any. The other one that I heard about was a gentleman was trying to siphon gas out of RVs. And if you're a camper, you'll understand where this problem was. But the guy who and this was neither one of these are a joke, by the way. These are real people that did real things. In my opinion, really stupid things, but they were real things. This guy was trying to siphon gas out of an RV. He went to the back pipe on the driver's side to siphon the gas. Now, if you know anything about camping, you'll understand why that was just a bad idea. And speaking of bad ideas that I've come across, I saw a post on Facebook, and it took me a minute to figure out what the problem was. And all it said was, take a look at this picture and just let it sink in. Oh, wait. All it was a picture of a gear shift. Okay, you know that funny thing that sits to the right of your driver's seat? Okay, now I'm looking at the gear shift going, okay, it's a modern car. What's the, When I looked at this gear shift, on the top of the gear shift, it had braille markings for the positions for the car, for the gear shift. Now, if you're not certain what braille is what the blind people use to read. Now, you look at this and go, why would you put braille on a gear shift? Okay, these are some of the incredibly well thought out technological advances that are being made lately. Okay, there's got to be a reason for it, but I have no clue what it is. But since I'm starting to get dizzy here, which means I've been pushing my limits too far, I am going to say thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to call it a night here. But until we talk again, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.